This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So if you haven't heard already, the Cleveland Browns have added potentially currently 3 players to regular season ending IR. Now, of those 4 players, well, 3, potentially 4 players, I do believe Grant Delpit can return, but I do think if Obo goes on there, Obo Okoronkwo, he's done for the year, even if you make the playoffs. DeJuan Jones, I do believe he's done for the year. And then Maurice Hurst is done for the year. The pectoral injuries, if they say that you have it, and I believe that Obo's getting a second opinion, but if they say you got a pec injury, dog, that's it. Like, it's 6 weeks. Unless you make the Super Bowl, probably out. And that's a generous time frame. Like, what did TJ Watt have last year? I think TJ Watt tore his pec and he was out for like 12 weeks. Yeah, a pec tear is nothing to play with at all. It is a long recovery, not like a super long, but it's like what? Yeah, 6-month rehab period. Where if it's a minor tear, it could be a matter of weeks. So for Maurice Hurst, he's getting surgery. He's out for the year. DeJuan Jones out for the rest of the year. He's getting surgery. Grant Delpit could be back. Obo could be back because it seems a little bit more minor. On the more immediate front, Ethan Posick is hurt but could play. Juan Thornhill hurt, could play. Denzel Ward hurt, could play. I think Denzel's going to probably play, but I've said that for 2 weeks in a row now. So I have no idea where Denzel Ward's going to be at. Now, you can hear this and hear, oh my God, just the volume of it and freak out and think that the world's ending, the sky's falling. But remember, we had this conversation a couple days ago about what's actually mission critical for the Cleveland Browns right now and what's not. And none of these players were on the mission critical list, right? The mission critical list is making sure that you have 2 of those 3 corners. You still have 2 of those 3, if not 3 of those 3. And if you have 3 of those 3, it really does help you mitigate some of the safety issues that you have with the injuries. You want to make sure you got Miles. You want to make sure you got Dalvin. You want to make sure you got Za'Darius. You got those guys. You got all those mission critical parts on defense. Offensively, the mission critical parts, David Njoku, Amari Cooper, maybe one more healthy offensive lineman, right? You got those 3, you'd be all right. So that's mission critical for the offense and the defense for this team so far. And none of those places got hurt. What I want to do today is talk about what I think the replacements are going to be for these players. Where do I think they're going to go with these replacements and what you should look out for and what is honestly a pipe dream. So let's talk about it. Grant Delpit, him going out, they already got the replacement, right? It's DeAnthony Bell and it's Duron Harmon. That's who's going to be filling those roles. Now, Grant kind of plays a unique role where he's kind of a rover along the line of scrimmage. He plays some linebacker. Like, it's going to be interesting to see them try to replicate that, right? If they can, or what they're going to do, or what they can't do because they can't replicate it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they play some of these tight ends, because the luxury of Grant Delpit has been we haven't worried about tight ends all year. That could become an issue, but the Anthony Bell, Duron Harmon, that's who they're plugging in there. Is it a great solution? There's no such thing as a great solution when you're this deep in the injury bag, but it's a fine enough solution. I'm okay with it. DeJuan Jones going out for the year. James Hudson's about as good as the solution as you can hope for. Somebody with playing experience at right tackle. A fine run blocker, not the greatest pass blocker in the world, but now that Deshaun Watson's not in there, the pass blocking job is a little bit more simplified because Joe Flacco ain't moving, right? Like, Joe Flacco ain't moving. He ain't holding on to that ball long. You ain't got to do too much if you play tackle for this team. All you got to block, let it go. You good. Just don't get a holding penalty if you're James Hudson and you're fine. Like, case in point, there are people who are convinced right now that Garyon Christian has been playing good. simply because the Browns haven't given up a ton of sacks here. And I have news for you. Garyon Christian has been terrible. He's not been good. Not been good at all. Like, I would much rather have Jed Wills. And I'm not even like the highest opinion on Jed Wills, but I would much rather have him. But the fact is it doesn't really matter as much because we're just getting rid of the ball so quickly. We know Joe Flacco under 2.5 seconds time to throw. Same case with DTR, who was at like 2.32 time to throw. So whoever's in there, time to throw is going to be quick. It's not going to be a problem. All right. So James Hudson, yeah, it sucks, but it's not the biggest problem that the Browns have. Not even close. Ogbo Okoronkwo and Maurice Hurst going down. Now, that's something you're going to have to bring somebody in to replace. Because right now, on the roster at least, your replacement for Ogbo is Isaiah McGuire. And while I like the rookie's prospects, I don't think that that's a role that the rookie's apt to fit is to do what Ogbo Okoronkwo did. That just doesn't make a lot of sense with how he's built. You lose a lot of speed that way. And then the same exact thing times 3 with Maurice Hurst and Siaki Ika. Like, the plan, no disrespect to Siaki Ika, but I feel like the reason Siaki Ika has been getting a lot of inactives is Jim Schwartz realized I drafted something I have nowhere to put. Right? Like, that's the biggest issue with Siaki. I don't know if he's a good player or not, but you drafted something you have no idea where to put if you have to put him on the field. Because he's built and he plays like a nose. Plays like a one tech, a 0. But in this offense, well, not the offense, this defense, he's not going to play that. So where are you going to put him? You can't put him where Maurice Hurst was sitting. Think that's going to end well. You may put him somewhere in rundowns and get away with it, but you can't replace Maurice Hurst with him simply because why would you put Siaki Ika in such a terrible situation for himself, right? So given that the Browns have a competently coached defensive line, I don't expect that to be the case for Isaiah McGuire and Siaki Ika. I think the rookies will have to wait to get more snaps than they want because they're not taking that whole job. Now, there are some replacements we can look at, but let's go to the other guys on injury report. Juan Thornhill, his replacement would be Ronnie Hickman. It's fine. It's fine. It's not better than having Juan Thornhill, but it's not terrible. Ethan Posick, same kind of situation. Because Posick's down, you have to put Nick Harris in, and because Nick Harris is in center, you have to put Harrison Bryant at fullback. It's a downgrade, but it's not that much of a downgrade, so you're fine there. So let's talk about replacements for the 2 players I mentioned. You're gonna have to replace, right? If Ogbo Okoronkwo goes down for the year, you gotta find a replacement. You must find a replacement. If he goes down for 2 weeks, you must find a replacement. And Maurice Hurst, you got to find a replacement for that. All right. So for Maurice Hurst, I think they're probably going to go somewhere like Ben Style. Ben Style was here last year, was able to rush the passer a little bit. It's not going to be great, but it's better than putting Ika in a position where he has to pass rush 90% of the time. Like, Maurice Hurst plays more of a pass rush spot. And that's where most of his snaps were. You could go like a Tyson Alualu if you just want a veteran player, but then you got the same issue that you have with Ika, but older. But those are the 2 best options I've seen on practice squads to kind of replace the role that Maurice played with Philly? Like, did he even play that much last year? So you could go that route. But a guy like Ndamukong Suh is a high profile as that, probably not going to want this job, right? While this job has its appeals, this is more of a get somebody off somebody's practice squad job. Now, for Obo Okoronkwo, you actually have some pretty interesting options, at least to me. You can always bring back Isaiah Thomas off the practice squad. I think that's a pretty good solution there. He was fine when he played last year in kind of that role that you had Chase Winovich playing. I think that would be a good thing. You can get a name like an Anthony Barr. He's not been good recently, but he's still Anthony Barr. He plays that linebacker, edge rusher position, kind of that hybrid that you want that guy like Obo to be, more of an athletic guy, even though he's older. Quincy Roach is a draft prospect that they liked a couple years ago that you can go there. And then there's a guy like a Taron Jackson who's been a camp standout at Philly for a while. Just a smaller guy, but a pretty high effort edge rusher. So I could see them going in that direction, say, hey, we're going to try to plug this guy in here. More than likely, it's going to probably be a combination of like an Isaiah Thomas and one of those other three guys. For the defensive line stuff, I think they're going to go either with the unknown or like a Ben Style, like somebody who's almost unknown, except for like if you're a diehard Browns fan that was watching the Browns versus the Bills last year, like you might know who Ben Style is. But other than that, Ben Style was kind of making plays last year, but I don't know if that's just because we was just desperate for somebody to make plays on that defensive line. We would notice anybody who did something remotely positive. So there's that, right? The solutions aren't the greatest, but they are solutions. The problems also aren't the worst problems that you can have. Again, when you hear these injuries, it's easy to get overwhelmed with them. But remember, there are mission critical parts of this team, and none of those parts, knock on wood, have gotten affected by this. Now, Grant Delpit, it's going to be a little bit of a trick bag, but it seems like they have thrown a lot of bodies at that problem. So I think they're going to be fine. And the story is what the story's been all season. When one quarterback went down, when two quarterbacks went down, whenever, the story has been the same. Whenever anybody's gone hurt on defense, the story's been the same. You get pressure with that defensive line, you win the game. You don't get pressure with that defensive line, you lose the game. It's that simple. Not that complicated. As long as you got Miles, as long as you got Zadarius, as long as you got Dalvin, you can win a battle on the offensive against an offensive line. And if you win that battle, you'll win the game. So, in my opinion, the Browns' chances of winning this week haven't really dipped that much. I think people's confidence going into this game might be dipped a little bit, but also remember, not all injuries are the same. And I'm not saying that these guys weren't productive players or really helpful players, but some of them, like DeJuan, just wasn't in a situation where he would matter as much because they're just getting rid of the ball in the passing game a lot quicker. Some of these guys are in spots that, hey, your star players are still there, so it's easy to fill these incremental roles. And other guys, you had kind of a well-prepared plan if something went down there, and you feel good about the solutions there. But that's my plan for all these injuries. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.